Welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and it's a big Monday, big post-draft Monday, huge day for the Buckeyes. And while they didn't break the record, they tied Ohio State's own record with 14. Was hoping to get to 15 to tie it. Possibly 16 was on the board. Seth McLaughlin, G. Scott, and Josh Fryer were the three that potentially could have get drafted but did not. But they'll still be able to further their NFL career, sign free agent deals. So we'll get into all of that. We'll start breaking down some of the drafts, some of the craziness that happened throughout the day, and the Shaduer Sanders situation. But probably the most interesting thing, Schlegs, that I saw that was a little wild in that second round was the fact that when you looked at the Cleveland Browns and deciding to go with Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson going after him, I think a lot of people looked at that and you were anticipating probably Travion Henderson being that guy, that next running back off the board in the second round, and it ended up being Judkins, which was kind of a unique and wild twist.
Yeah, unique and wild in the fact that, it depends on what you want, what your fit is, what your needs are. I mean, we could probably go on and on for days, Bob, about the Browns drama and that, Dylan Gabriel already wants to go into the transfer portal, having been a third-round pick and all the things that surrounded that. But, they went – I really like the pick you and I discussed about with Mason Graham. Then they went linebacker, and then they went Q. And – it's really the order of the operation. If you only take somebody else in that third round pick, a wide receiver, you need some offensive help, right? What does that look like? And not necessarily spending 2 draft picks on a quarterback. But to me, we have talked about this, and it's just the value of the organization and where they think they're going to go. And they had those 2 picks there. They're like, man, we have him graded as a second round guy. We don't know if he's going to be there at the third. Could New England had picked him at the 38th pick, and they end up picking Trey. Like, who knows? But it's all about the value that they think that they're getting with somebody. And, if Chubb's back, it's like, all right, do we have 2 physical runners on the inside that, could help carry the load? And Chubb coming off of that injury, now back, like, how does that look? But we want to run the same style. We don't need a different style of back. We need somebody that's very similar. And that's the guy that we wanted already going in, so we took him. So I'm not necessarily against it, but, let's look at both of them. Both of them are really good pass blockers. Both of them, Q is probably more of a thumper when you think about him. He's a big, thick guy. Trey adds that explosiveness, home run speed, ability. I think sometimes just because he was here at Ohio State for this 1 year and us in the Midwest really got a snapshot of him this season, sharing reps with Travion, is the fact that the dude was the leading rusher in the SEC for 2 seasons prior to coming to Ohio State. So, the guy has been able to do that. And then again, there's some of the things about Trey were, could he stay healthy? And, he was healthy in 2024, but that was because he had somebody that could share the load with him. So maybe that was a little bit of the Browns' reasoning behind this. And we want somebody that's kind of similar to a Chubb, to where the offense could continue to flow and also divvy out the totality of reps throughout those 2 guys.
Yeah. And so it always is going to come down to fit. And so then you have Trey coming off the board in New England, which I love that pick.
Yes.
He's going there. He's going to be with Mike Vrabel. They're building this offense out. They're going to want to run it some, give Drake May some weapons, some help. And so he's going to be able to obviously do some things in the run game, but then also in the pass game. And so I think that's going to be pretty awesome ultimately for him with what he's able to do. One of the things I don't want to move too quickly off of Quinshon, though, but he was, with his family hanging out. And what's funny, Schlegs, is why don't we throw this up about Q, where he was at? They're going to call him. They're going to, bring the announcement and let everybody know. And ultimately, Schlegs, about where Q was, when it was happening. They're looking at him. They're showing he wasn't in the room. His mom had to answer the phone. You see a number come up. I'm guessing probably Schlegs, maybe a 216 Cleveland number. And he has to come back in and get it going because he probably wasn't expecting to go that high. I mean, You're the world's fastest dumper, Schlegs. And so, what the heck's going on?
Fast, super fast. You got to go immediately. In the second round, there's more gap between them. And so as soon as that one pick was in, you're like, boom, I gotta go. I got a solid minute and a half. I'm in and out. Left the phone in there. But hey, he got drafted. Like that's all that matters. And what a great story, man. If we can eventually get him on the phone, we're gonna like, what was going on in there? Did you have to pinch it off because somebody's like the phone's ringing?
Pinch it off. I mean, that's remarkable, Schlegs. Like that is
what a great question that would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question for sure. So then we have Travion going sixth to the Patriots. You like the fit, obviously, there, what he's going to be able to do, being with Mike Vrabel, everything that they're ultimately going to be involved in. But it was a pretty nice day for Ohio State, all in all, as we go to Quinshawn and Trey. And you start asking yourself, Schlegs, like, which part of this team was better? The offense or the defense? And some of that, the proof comes down to the pudding of guys ultimately getting drafted. But I felt like it was a pretty offensive heavy draft for the Buckeyes, especially early on when you start looking at that first round and then in the second. And JT coming off the board then with the Colts in the second round. And what was that? I mean, there was a run there where you had over about, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 10-ish picks. Yeah, from I guess 4 to 13, where you had 3 Buckeyes going. That's kind of what we anticipated on that Friday night, is that there would be a run then of Ohio State Buckeyes, that people would want to go get all these guys and be able to bring them in. So JT going to the Colts. Do you like that situation for him, Schlegs, with where he's going and what they're trying to do? Because they're going to have a quarterback battle. They're trying to revamp that defense and elevate that, but they've got a lot more questions, I think, than answers right now in Indianapolis.
Yeah, they do. But like the good thing about JT is that he offers versatility, and he's a big, thick guy. He's twitchy. I didn't realize how good of a basketball player he was, Bob. He's just an athlete. So when you go and you're looking for value in the draft, and I think and that's what we had talked about, I don't know, for the last 2 weeks leading up to this draft, about the depth of the draft, about the values, regardless of where they go. I mean, second round pick, potentially a first rounder, that could potentially be a third rounder or a fourth rounder. Like, you don't even know. It just depends on the fits and opportunities and where each team individually has you. I would say this, what I noticed is the gap from every team's value of you was significantly different this year than it has been in the past. Normally, everybody is right around the same thing. Like, this guy's a second or third round pick. This guy could be second to fifth round. It's all predicated upon where they think your value is and how you could, add value to their team, more so than anything now, which I actually like, because teams are being very strategic about the fits and the depth that they already have and how do they, build their roster from the foundation of the draft. But I think that JT going to that spot's going to be really, really good for him. And again, it's close to Ohio. There's a place. I know he's not from Central Ohio or the Midwest, but still, like, it's good. You have some familiarity with the Midwest, and I think he's going to do really good things. Plus, he's playing the AFC South. Like, there's opportunities of winning if you can get a quarterback in Indy.
Yeah, they got to find a way to get a quarterback and get that done. And so that basically, was there anybody else that went in the second round, or was that
No,
it?
That was it.
I think that was it for Ohio State. So they had 4 first rounders,
3 seconds.
3 then in the second. But if you really look at it, and this is what I try to tell people, they kind of cluster picks. You had 7 guys drafted between 19 and 45. Like, there was a nice chunk in there when you start looking at Mecca coming off the board, and then Donovan, Tyleek, and then Josh Simmons. And really, I mean, you had 2 defensive linemen drafted there. I think, speaking to maybe the depth of the position group right there for Ohio State. But you had a slew of offensive guys, and both running backs, Emeka, and then some linemen that obviously were sprinkled in there as well. So a nice showing for Ohio State, and a huge showing for Ryan Day, I think, as well, in that Ohio State team, as you begin kind of looking and parceling out and kind of figuring out, hey, what exactly they've been able to do and where they where they were going to go. Before we get moving, any other big storylines? I mean, we'll get to the Shaduer Sanders bit and maybe talk a little bit about that. But anything else like you saw from that draft before we start kind of diving in to some of these particular things that happened?
Yeah, I because we're former Buckeyes, and I was just watching and listening to guys get drafted, and I'm just like, man,
How
like
did you consume it, by the way? Like, how did you watch Friday? Because Thursday night, I mean, I was sitting there locked in on it. Friday, I was going to dinner. You know, we had the TVs up, and it was pretty cool getting to see it. So I didn't have the sound going with, but like consuming it and just watching it as we were kind of going along was pretty sweet.
yeah, I would say Friday I consumed it regular. Saturday we had getting ready for prom for my daughter, but then the guys had their game 3 of their series to win the regional quarterfinals, which they did 2-1. So now they advanced. Now we got regional semifinals next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. Against a really good ball club that they tied this year 1-1. So I'm consuming it on my phone. And here's the thing: I really thought that Jack was going to go in the third. The fact that he went in the fourth. But again, guys, I tell you all this all the time. It's not about where you get drafted. It's about who you get drafted to and do they value you. And I think like Jack and Will Howard both going to Pittsburgh was freaking fantastic. One, Cody Simon going in the fourth.
We'll
Love
get to
that.
all that.
Okay,
We're
we're
gonna
gonna.
get to all that.
So that was the biggest one for me. I think honestly, Jack going in the fourth, and then watching these other quarterbacks with Will, and then where he ended up going to the Steelers, which I thought was a great fit. Those two things surprised me from a Buckeye standpoint.
Yeah, maybe kind of how long it took there. And I know we touched on this a little bit, but this is impressive for Ryan. He's got 14 first-round picks and only 10 losses. It really speaks to what he's developed here and how good he has been as a coach, as a guy developing talent. Now he's got that national championship with it. And the rate of which he's producing players, high-end players, speaks to not only his ability to recruit, the development element of Mickey Marotti and what you're doing in the offseason, which we've touched on that a whole heck of a lot. And then also the position coaches and what they've been able to do. And so all of those things, the confluence of all of that, I think is proven that track record of success. And now it's like that only helps recruiting and everything cruising along down the road as well in a really, really big way. All right, we're gonna get into a bunch of other stuff. We've got obviously a ton of draft news, some more Buckeye news. We'll start breaking down some of the spots where players went and everything else. I do want to touch a little bit on the Shaduer Sanders phenomenon of what happened with that, because I think even just outside of him, but a little bit of a case study of how things can go and what things can go sideways, because it's not a linear track and stuff gets wild all the time. And so we'll discuss that when we get back. But first, parents and athletes, protect what matters most with export mouth guards trusted by professional athletes and designed by NHL team dentists. Export mouth guards are scientifically tested to absorb those high impact hits, protecting both your teeth and your brain. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including a patented use of carbon fiber that they 3D print that bad boy right to your grill. More protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication so you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Visit exportguards.com/Bobby today and save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. More draft news coming up next. All right, so did you watch the draft on ESPN, ABC, NFL Network? ESPN. So, their job is to tell stories, and they get into the Shaduer Sanders bit so much so that like Cam Ward, I mean, he's drafted first overall, and they're talking about Shaduer Sanders. Donovan Jackson's getting drafted. They're talking about Shaduer Sanders. And you knew then it was going to be all day on Friday until he's off the board. Now, I'm starting to sit there and watch the second round thinking, holy smokes, is he going to slide completely out of Friday? That's the question you start asking yourself, like, hey, will he be a guy that's slides completely out? Like, I couldn't imagine him going undrafted because I watched probably 5 or 6 Colorado games this year. I didn't watch every single ball he threw or some of the blowouts or everything else, but I watched him play football. I thought he was a very good quarterback, good football player. There are some limitations physically, like not the craziest arm strength, but I thought he got rid of the ball he threw with pretty good accuracy. He was tough as nails, took a lot of hits. And so I thought for sure, like someone will take him in the first round. I don't love either one, him or Cam Ward. I wouldn't have felt good taking either one of those guys at the top, 5 picks, but ultimately you start sliding down and then you become a value, you become a bargain. And so the Browns end up taking him, and it's pretty crazy. Like it's like he's sliding through there. And did the Browns did they I'm trying what pick was he overall, Schlegs?
Fifth round. Oh man.
He was in the 5th? I always thought it was the 4th.
No, fifth round. 144.
They took Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd.
Yes.
And they circle back around and take him. And so as you see, like at some point there was going to be value there. Slides all the way through Friday, slides to the 5th round. They have 2 quarterbacks now on the roster. And I thought he was better than Dylan Gabriel. However, I thought Will Howard was better than Dylan Gabriel. So I'm not sure. Everybody's got their own independent evaluation. And I'm curious to see how the people up in Cleveland feel about this. But that goes now to some off the field. But like he has no off the field issues. Never was arrested. There's a lot of things. Mel Kiper's losing his mind. But they said he was very, very arrogant in some of the meetings. Now that's just hearsay. I wasn't in the meeting, so I don't know. That's just what was being reported. And he said, he's a culture changer. And typically when you hear that, that's something that's supposed to be good, right? And so what was we'll get into the Gabriel pick too. Don't worry about that. But Shakes, when you hear that, you talk about a guy that's a culture changer. And I mean, we're looking at this from 30,000 feet, not being in the weeds with Colorado and being there and seeing how he interacted with everybody. What was the theory on this with you as you saw what had ultimately transpired?
Man, guys, I'm just telling you, the NFL is a business. And I go back and I saw people making great points about Eli Manning. Everybody remembers this. He was going to get drafted by the Chargers. And they're like, absolutely not. We are not going to the Chargers. That sounds like a terrible idea. And they went to the Giants. And they finagled that. Just because it happened once doesn't mean it's going to happen again.
Finagle?
Yeah.
It's a long.
I don't know. Just, hey, toilet or toilet, buffet or buffet. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But here's what I'm saying. Then you kind of take that with, other things. And how do you develop? How do you handle the culture? What is he going to do in here? I also think some of these things are when you get passed up, like can, the coach run it and demand it from him? Also, there is, do I want to deal with Dion? Do I want to why should I want to?
Do you think that's a real issue though? I mean,
I really don't think it is, but that doesn't mean that it would be, guys. Perception sometimes becomes reality in these things, right? When you say, okay, I'm not going to throw at pro day. I'm not going to throw at the combine. I'm not going to do any of the testing. I'm going to literally do my own showcase and make it a production. You're already elevating yourself to this status, right? And the NFL is anti that. They want production. They want substance. They don't necessarily want the drama that comes with it. And then how does that work? I would say this, and I'm going to take it full circle. When you have gray in your organization or a GM doesn't want to have these problems or he doesn't feel that the personnel, the coaches in the building can handle somebody like this, it can potentially ruin them. Remember, it's not just the coaching staff that gets fired. Eventually, everybody goes. And so when you're making these draft picks, like who's going to come in, add value, I don't want any more headaches, I'm a pass. Especially if you're like, all right, I could get them later. Because when you got to think about it, guys, you go through who are all the teams that really needed a quarterback in this draft. And we talk about the strength of the quarterback draft in next year, in 2026. So getting draft capital, bringing in a backup. And again, I've heard this one. I thought it was a great point. There is a mindset to being a quality backup in the NFL and knowing your place and the things that you need to work on to be ready when called upon. Do they feel that Shedeur potentially has that as he backs up a Joe Flacco or even how he competes now against a Dylan Gabriel and a Deshaun Watson and who's the other guy up there? Pickens, right? So those are all the things that they're taking. The real question is who made that pick? Because we've heard through the Haslam's went out there to Oregon and they really liked Dylan Gabriel. Who made the pick for Shedeur in the 5th round? That's not the question, because then you got Barry over there just sullen face, sulking in his chair sideways, half clapping that this is going down. Like that's the real question as to why did they end up taking this pick? Anyways, that's kind of my thought and why he slipped. But also, Bob, he did have the slowest release of anybody. And I'm with you, man. At Colorado, he showed toughness. We talked about it on the
Yeah.
show. When you get sacked as many times, part of that could be the fact that you hold on to the ball too long. Part of it, mainly a lot of it, is the fact that your offensive line was terrible and it was a complete rebuild. People forget that Colorado had like one of like the most winning they've done in a decade was 3 games until Dion got there, and they went 4-8 and 8-4, I believe, this last season.
Yeah.
Were there in contention in the Big 12. And a lot of that's because Travis Hunter came with them and Shedeur came with them and they changed what was going on there. So it's all predicated upon the team. It's all predicated upon where they find his value. And also, what is he bringing to the organization in a positive manner? I will say this. I do like his statement that he had. He is grateful for the opportunity. And you got to me, you got to take it for what it's worth. And let's see how it transpires and moving forward and how he does in those meetings. I do know that we did hear he was not prepared for some of the meetings when Dable brought him into New York. And it was like not prepared and it was rigorous. And like those are the testing things, man. Like a quarterback in the NFL is just different. It's just different. It's just different.
So do you think that was a function of his dad? Like,
I don't think that was a function of his dad. It could be a function of his football acumen. I mean, you're at Jackson State, and then you go to Colorado, and then they bring in who is it? Was it Shermer that they brought in as their offensive coordinator? Right? And so he revamped it to make it more NFL-esque. And I did not like this take that it was window dressing and showing, making him look better against inferior competition. Guys, that's what everybody does. So, like, that was a bad statement.
Yeah.
I thought he did very well. I mean, the guy set all-time passing records at Colorado. Granted, they didn't necessarily have a record that would, show that was, difficult to do, but he still produced and he had Colorado in the mix all the way through this last season. So here, the biggest thing is this, guys. You had a great point, Bob. This draft showed that more kids need to stay in college because they can actually get more money, get fully developed, and get as many dollars as they possibly can in college before they go to the NFL. If you want to leave early, we saw like Quinn Ewers left money on the table. Shedeur left money on the table to go to the NFL early. Like, I think that after this draft, people are going to say, I'm going to stay in as long as I can and get as much as I can before I go to the NFL.
Well, and it's proven, Schlegs, that guys have more success.
That's facts.
The longer they've been in college when they get to the NFL. You look at Jaden Daniels, you look at Bo Nix, both of those guys, 5-6 year college players. And when you play a lot, you're starting 50 games or whatever it is, you are much more pro ready when you get there. The thing is, I'm trying to figure some of this out where, I mean, Dion, his kids seem very respectful. He says some of the right, a lot of the right stuff. He does get after people in the media. So I don't know if people were afraid to pass judgment on him in the media as far as what he was like as a player, because I thought he was pretty good. I think he was like the best quarterback ever. Or is it the fact that, his dad, people were worried of drafting him to dealing with that? Because this would be the first time that we've ever seen that, where potential baggage from a parent would be a reason that they wouldn't draft you.
And Shiloh just picked up an agent. I just saw that on the plane.
Picked up an agent. What do you mean? Like just signed?
Rosenhaus he just signed his agent. His agent was his dad. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go verify that. I just got off a plane and I saw it when I was on there. I should have saved the Dubajig. But I think that just transpired too.
Wow.
And he signed a free agent deal to the Buccaneers.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, that's pretty wild. And
there's just stuff.
We're gonna take a break. We're long for a break. We'll get into much, much more as we stay locked in here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Hey, I want to tell you about my friends over at Backer. They're an unbelievable new apparel company with Ohio State Apparel. It's BCKR, but pronounced Backer. Founded to make better fan gear, higher quality. It costs maybe a little bit more than your typical gear, but it is phenomenal stuff. It's just built like the high-end fishing, the hunting, the skiing, golfing, all of the high-end gear that you get there. Now you can get it, and it's all branded up with Ohio State, with the Buckeyes. It's got tons of features with it. It's absolutely tremendous. So you're gonna love this stuff. I was
Yeah, I
wearing
like it. I like it. They
I
didn't
was
give
wearing
me.
one of the windbreakers. I was wearing the windbreaker at my son's soccer game this weekend. It was absolutely fantastic. So they've got tons of great gear. So go check them out because when you go buy something from them, a portion of that's going to go back to Ohio State student athletes on the NIL stuff. So go to backer.com. That's BCKR.com. And when you buy something, use promo code Bobby, all caps, to get your free expedited shipping. Again, that's backer, BCKR.com. Go check it out.
This is a real question for you, Bob. Do you
Yeah.
like wearing red, like all red? Like I like black.
Like all red. I mean, I'll wear red, and then I'm not going to usually wear like red pants and a red shirt. I mean, I'll wear like a red shirt. I don't really have any red pants, I guess. I don't mind it. I mean,
I'm just looking at their side. I like black. I like black. I like black. I like
okay.
black.
Yeah, I got a
Uh,
black shirt
yeah,
on, a
this
black
is
gown right now.
fantastic. Get one of these, man. These things look fantastic.
Yeah, they're pretty great. Shadoer said his dad wasn't doing a good job, so he had to sign a real agent, and that there you go, and that might be part of
Oh,
it. I mean, his dad, like this, there's a reason why you have an agent coming out. Like you don't necessarily have to have one. Lamar Jackson didn't. His mom kind of handled a lot of the stuff, and they had a attorney look over it. But you could argue that he slipped in the draft too, all the way to 32. Now, to your point, Schlegs, it works out how it's supposed to work out, and he's won MVPs and been really good. And they've got to get some more playoff success. But at that point, like there is an element there where those people are professionals and they're paid to ultimately do a good job. So let's talk a little bit now. We get to the no Buckeyes went in the third round, correct?
yes.
So no
Well,
Buckeyes goes. So then we go to Saturday. Sorry, go to Saturday, and then we start getting into the run of Buckeyes again. Were you surprised? Like you said, Jack Sawyer goes to Pittsburgh. Wasn't even the first Buckeye taken on Sunday. That was also or Saturday. That was Cody Simon. But are you surprised Jack Sawyer? Who, by the way, both those guys have been on the show here. And then Lathan, that's like the fourth round was like our guys all going right in a row. But were you surprised that Jack went where he did? And I know you're going to say like Pittsburgh is a great organization. We'll get into the merits of that. But I didn't think the difference between Jack and JT was all that significant. Maybe JT has a higher upside potentially, but it seemed like their production and their film was pretty similar.
yeah, I really honestly, some of these, even when I was looking at like some of the cornerbacks versus Denzel, and I was looking at even the safeties with Lathan that came before him, and just what he brings to the table, and how, I mean, Lathan ran very, very well. Um, those surprised me that they didn't go in the third when I saw people get on that. They would get on a run of like linebackers or safeties, and they weren't in there in that third round. And that kind of like shocked me a little bit. I think that it's all predicated upon what teams did in the first. And when those first and second round teams that really needed an end kind of went, and you saw JT in that mix, and Jack wasn't there, I was like, damn it, he's probably going in the fourth, later rounds. Because but again, I don't know the why behind it. Though I do know that his physical presence and stopping the run and what they do and being able to stand up in Pittsburgh, or even potentially get a little bigger and play a five. Like he can do a lot of things. He's going to be that edge side, field side, outside backer, Bob. And I think part of that too is you watch what happened in that Michigan game. Him being able to make a play into the boundary on that one, particular, and get a pick. Like he showed some of those things. So that was a little bit of surprise for me. But needless to say, I'm happy where he went to.
Absolutely. It worked out well. And I think that Pittsburgh is going to be a really good spot for him as far as what they do defensively and how aggressive they are on the edges with that. And he's also going to be going there with, and Cam Hayward's going to be there. So you got a Buckeye in the room helping take care of you, helping, kind of shepherd him along. So I love that. Cody Simon going to Arizona, Schlegs. I think, a lot of people kind of had him pegged maybe going a little bit later. I felt like he kind of maybe got drafted earlier than what people thought. I thought he might be more of a fifth, potentially sixth round guy. He ran well, ran a sub 4.6. And in doing that, that ultimately gets him to stamp his ticket as the first Buckeye taken on Saturday to the Arizona Cardinals.
Yep. And I thought that was really good. I'm telling you what, man, like Arizona's stacking with some Buckeyes. Out there, Denzel's going to Arizona. Cody's going to Arizona. Marvin Harrison Jr. is already there. Paris Johnson's there. Coach Fry is there. Guess who else is going? Justin Fryer is going there. So it's like, boom, Buckeyes of the West in the desert. They always play well in Tempe anyways. So why not bring more Buckeyes? But Cody going, I think that's a testament to, and what I'm seeing from this, right, of where Trevion and Q and Donnie and Emeka and like, I can name them all, honestly. But when teams are looking at where they're drafting guys, they're looking at guys that are coming in that can uphold the culture that the coach wants and speak that, because language does drive change. And they know exactly what they're getting from a developed collegiate football player that can take the next step to be a pro. And I think that's kind of what separated Cody, because you're right, Bob. I think him going in the fourth, a little bit higher than what everybody else expected, but nonetheless, like he did, and I'm really excited for his future.
I do. I love that. So I love where he's at. Smart guy.
I really like the Lathan pick too, man, in Carolina, because he reminds me of one of our buddies, but just taller.
Yeah, and Lathan Ransom going down there, obviously, to Carolina, going right before Jack. Him and Jack going back-to-back picks. With that, I thought Lathan might go a little bit later. People were kind of mocking him, maybe around 5th, 6th round, but he goes as well. Him and Cody both. And I think the one thing that you look at him and Cody that they have in common: incredibly high football IQs, very passionate leaders, elite human beings. Not that any of the guys aren't, but both had a unique way of how they got there, and how they got ultimately to their starting spots this year. And Lathan's been injured a lot, and it was nice to see Schlags that injury history. I don't think impacted him really at all with where he was drafted.
Yeah, it didn't. And who am I blanking on, man? Why am I blanking on?
What?
No, I just totally blanked out. I totally had a
Lathan Ransom. Do you have a stroke, Schlags?
No, I did not. I know we're speaking about Lathan, but who's our good buddy that played there for a long time that's still down
there? What, Nate Sally?
No, not Nate. He played after us. He's on the Buckeye Cruise.
Kurt Coleman?
Yeah, Kurt. I'm sorry. Yeah, totally sorry, Kurt, my guy. But like, he reminds me a lot of that from his competitiveness. Because honestly, guys, Kurt Coleman is the most competitive human being I've ever been around. And Lathan, what he kind of articulated, there's another quote that he had on there about Lathan that he said about being a tone setter. And he goes out there and wants to do it every single time, and the value that you're going to get with that pick. I think that's exactly, for a 4th round, get that type of presence in your locker room and on your defense, and the things that he can do as a strong safety and be able to play the run and can still cover. Like, again, I'm biased because I'm a Buckeye fan and I'm a Lathan Ransom fan, but I think Carolina got a hell of a deal out of this one.
They did get a heck of a deal out of that, and so it's a big one, obviously, for Lathan. And then we go down to the 5th. When did Will? Gosh, it was just
he went to 6th.
Will went in the 6th. Did anyone go in the 5th? Oh, Ty Hamilton, Buckeyes, went to the Rams.
And Jordan
also went in the 5th. Went where? To Buffalo. That's right. And so I think Jordan Hancock might be the steal of the draft with what the type of value he provides. With that, because he's a guy that can play inside, play outside, he can play safety, ran pretty well. And then Ty being the final piece of that defensive line, all getting drafted now in the first 5 rounds, which is pretty crazy. Going from the 2nd to the 5th, and all 4 of your starting defensive linemen are drafted at Ohio State, all 4 seniors, and getting that done. We actually have the Lathan quote right here.
It says, I feel like I'm an enforcer and a tone setter every time I step on the field. I played with an extremely big chip on my shoulder and try to set the tone every chance I get. And that is exactly what he's going to be able to do in Carolina. And again, that's the biggest thing. We always talk to these guys, Bob and I do, about when you get drafted, especially when you get drafted that 3rd through 7th round, undrafted free agents, doesn't matter. Like, first off, you got to play special teams. And 2, Bob, you and I have told them ad nauseum that you better be prepared, because not all rookie mini camps are created the same. Pittsburgh, they are going to smash your face in. With Urban, they smash your face in. Some of them, they don't do that, right? Can't say they ain't doing that. But like, you got to go out there and the thing is, be the best football player possible that can add value to an organization. And he's that type of guy. Another thing, too, after Jordan, why Jordan went before Denzel, because I saw this run of cornerbacks. I'm like, dude, what about Denzel? Yes, he had the one game. But I want to show you guys, I want to articulate, especially later in the rounds, the versatility of Jordan is why Jordan went above Denzel in that, guys. Like, when you have a guy that is a taller guy that could also play safety, nickel, potentially corner, that adds a lot of value to you in those later rounds. That's why he got drafted. But then Denzel, again, 5th-round pick, going back to Arizona where he's from, great fit.
Like that too. All right, coming up, we're going to have our headlines, and we'll dive into that. We haven't talked really much about Will Howard, what his opportunity is going to be there, and then the undrafted free agents, where they all went, and why they probably went to those places. We'll get in with that here next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, now we're into our headlines, brought to you by our friends over at Lake Spur Marketing, full-service marketing agency that's built on trust, strategy, performance. Lake Spur, their team shields you and your team from the outside noise, the cold callers, all the stuff you don't want to do. They help you do what you do best. That's work on your business. With more than 100 years of marketing experience, Lake Spur eliminates waste and delivers on budget, which is huge. They don't chase clicks. They help build partnerships. Lake Spur Marketing, the proof is in their partners. All right, Schlegs, Will Howard.
Yeah.
Let's throw that up there. Will Howard and Jack Sawyer, both going to the Steel City. Teammates, the gif of them, Will yelling at Jack during the Cotton Bowl, going crazy at that. That was pretty wild to see that there. But both of those guys, and I like it because let's say Aaron Rodgers signs there, which I think that he probably will. That'll be a great opportunity for Will Howard to sit back and watch about how he does it, how one of the best in the game while going to an organization that helps develop guys in a big way.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this. Let's look at their room, guys. You got Mason Rudolph.
Yep.
Gabe, the helmet swinger, right? Not mistaken. Skylar Thompson. Ooh, big time ball. And Will Howard. That's what you got. You got to bring in a free agent. So probably they're waiting on Aaron Rodgers. But for Will, against that squad right there, I feel very confident. I like Will. Let's freaking go. And like that, again, fits an opportunity, everybody. I think that he has an opportunity there in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin is, I believe, Bob, the longest tenured head football coach in the National Football League.
I think you're correct in saying that, Schleich.
Every time
him and Harbaugh are close. It was Belichick, but yeah, those three guys last year had been at their places for a long time.
And every time he talked about Jack, he talked about Will, he talked about the Steeler DNA. And it's very similar to the Ohio State Buckeye DNA, honestly. And I've always liked Mike Tomlin for a long time, and all my interactions with him as a strength coach at Ohio State. Heck, I drove to his house, and his kids got striking machines in their basement. But he wants to embody and have the same type of culture that we had here at Ohio State. And he got two really good dudes that embodied that winning mentality, that competitiveness, that toughness. And they're in the room, and they're on different sides of the ball, and that's exactly what you want from young people when you bring them in a draft.
Absolutely. And then we got a couple other free agents that ultimately went. We touched on this a little bit earlier. Josh Fryer going to Arizona, Seth McLaughlin going to Cincinnati, and G. Scott going to New England. Give me your thoughts, your take, Schleich.
Seth's a big one, man. All right, so to get to 15, I had pegged Seth in, okay? I know he has an Achilles. I know that's a long injury, everybody. Somebody asked me, could he be ready for training camp or whatever? I said maybe. It's a long injury. It's different for the bigger guys than it is for the skill guys, but nonetheless, you normally like an entire year for an Achilles anyways, but he could come in and add value. That's a great get for the Cincinnati Bengals. And it's one of those things where when you don't get drafted and everybody's calling you because he's a Remington Award winner. I think we all forgot the fact of this reshuffling of this offensive line. He was given the award. He had the sword come over the shoulder. Boom. I knight thee, sir, best center of all of college football. That was him. And he's going to the Bengals. That's a huge get. He was the 15th. I thought he would go later. I thought somebody was going to pick up a center. They already had some depth. They have starters. They wanted to add depth. They could go get a guy to let him wait and develop and be that guy, especially in a later round. Him not being drafted, kind of blew my mind. That's why I thought we were going to get the 15. The 16 would have been probably Fryer because he plays tackle and people need big humans. They're just not out there. But that was a surprise to me. But when you're an undrafted free agent, you get to select where you can go. and no better place than staying in the state to a team that needs 100% offensive line help. And guess what? Joe Burrow is in the building all the time when he comes back to Columbus, Ohio with Stu. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love the fit. I love where those guys being together down there. And yeah, Cincinnati needs O-line help. They always need O-line help. And this will hopefully help him out. And maybe not this year, but he's a smart dude, develop, get to where he needs to go and be able to maybe make a push late in the season or at in his second year with the squad. We got Tailgate Talk brought to you by our friends over at Real Truck. Stay locked in here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Welcome back in to the Bobby Carpenter Show. Tailgate Talk brought to you by our friends over at Real Truck. Go to realtruck.com. Bring your truck, Jeep, Bronco to life. I just hooked up my winch today, by the way. I had it been sitting on there. I went and got the cords, boom, 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 and I was testing it out, and it was a lot of fun. Got it powered in.
Nice.
And feeling pretty darn good about
it. Have you done hillbilly stuff yet with it? Like
I just literally put it on, and then I came in here.
To
do the show. So yes, I haven't done anything with it. I'm going to start, I'm going to Schleg's, going to cut some tree branches down. So I may use that and have RJ run it as opposed to him like leaning into the ropes, because that'll be probably a little bit easier and to be able to get that done. So probably going to use it to help do that and move forward that way. So that'll be pretty big. But going into some of these headlines, Schleg's, and this is one, it's from Seek Nayag.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you want to throw that up there, Pat, on the screen from last week. I was thinking about Simmons, quote, not being a football guy, reports. Even if he were not, he'd still put in the work to get better. If someone puts in the work and gets better and becomes great at his craft, what is the risk? And I think that's part of, like, people just want someone that you love the game, and the game is like all that matters to you. And there are guys that can succeed without doing it, but it's such a difficult task. Like, it's so much time that if you don't love it, it's really, really hard to be great at it. And so sometimes people see the external trappings and things that go on. And just because people are involved in other stuff, that doesn't mean that they don't love the game. And I think they'll see that as well with Josh Simmons. As he begins to move forward, I think they'll find that out in Kansas City.
Bobby, you brought up a great point. It's long. To be a pro, when you're not fully invested in what this is, and you don't do anything after the season, and the first time you start training is during OTAs in April, you're already 4 months behind the 8 ball. Like that. That's a real thing, guys. And then you go, and then now you have camp, and then you come back, and then you're out of shape, and you got to work back into shape. Like, the game is hard enough. Coaching ball is hard enough. Scheming and breaking down film is hard enough. To add on to the plate that I also got to like constantly be on these guys. Like, I don't want to add that to the mix. Like, this is professional. This is a job. I mean, let's think about it. If you're going to go hire somebody for a big time position at your organization, don't you want somebody that's going to put in their max effort doing the job? Or, oh, no, good is good enough. I'm totally fine with that. Well, then how successful actually is your business when all they're doing is like on Facebook and doing a bunch of other stuff and only working 3 hours of the day? I mean, that's the reality of the situation. That might work for some. It sure in hell don't work in the National Football League. And that's kind of what it is. I think it's 100% okay to be eccentric, to be, authentically you and still be ball. And I think the question that you're really asking is, what about a guy that goes in there and when he's in the building, he's all ball all the time, and then when he leaves the building, he knows how to turn it off? That, myself, is the real question. And honestly, that's a great work-life balance, which these guys have to also figure out when they can honestly like live their lives and do certain things to the betterment of their career. If not, it's going to be a not for long type deal. So, but when you're drafting guys in the first, second round and you're giving them that type of capital, and we're seeing where these guaranteed contracts are now going in the NFL, like, they want to make sure that this guy 100% authentically loves the game of football. That's all.
And then one other quick question. Will Johnson, who I thought may end up being the steal of the draft where he went 15th in the second round to 47 overall to the Arizona Cardinals. And he fell pretty significantly because a lot of people, I thought he was one of the better corners in the draft, probably top 2 or 3 for sure. And when after a number of other ones. And there's another comment here by Seekinog as well. It said Will Johnson's tape was just okay in 2024. His 22 and 23 tape was better. That's another reason why he was falling. Why did he regress some? And that's always interesting of why guys have better years, like maybe early on. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can point to sometimes, and that a coaching change, maybe different some stuff with what he was being asked to do. Obviously, their team wasn't as good, and so maybe he was not maybe as invested. Maybe there was elements where he wasn't as committed in 24 as he felt like it. There was a lot of distractions swirling around the program, and he was hurt some, and he sat out a little bit. But there's a lot of things, Schlegs, that you could look to.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys, I mean, I remember in 2023, Denzel was slated as a first or second round corner, right? And he ended up coming back. I mean, that's a real talk, right? He came back and he slid all the way down into the fifth. Right now we're talking about Will Johnson.
But that also begs the question, like, would he have gone that high the year before as well? Like
exactly, you don't. I don't know, guys. Like I don't know, but it's why consistent work works and being consistent matters. Like just the same things that we talked about Trey and being injured. Like Will Johnson had some games where like he didn't participate. Could he have participated?
Yeah.
And guys, there is a fine line between participating and then putting subpar film and also not participating. All of that matters.
It does.
I know because I did that. All right.
I'm going to give you I'm going to give you guys long for a break. We're long for a break here. We'll get that in your parting thoughts coming up next. All right, Schlegs, finish up your parting thoughts.
I'll just finish up. I'll use a real life example myself. My second year in the league, I had turf toe for 15 weeks. I bend my toe down, shoot it up with cortisone until I couldn't feel it. Then I broke 3 bones in my back, my 3, 4, and 5 processor on the left side, played every game, didn't miss a practice. So what transpired of that? I put subpar film. I couldn't run. I was probably 70%. And then I actually get healthy and I get cut and I'm no longer in the league. Now I'm playing in the UFL. Like that stuff matters. So, but in all of these things, guys, like, did he really slide to where he could have? Like if he would have gone out there when he was hurt and put out even worse film, could he have been a 4th rounder? Like those are all the things that you got to take in consideration when these guys are going as to what, what kind of value do they want to present to themselves when a guy in college doesn't want to go out there and try to give it a go. It's not necessarily I'm going to make it go for a team. Like you got to have some depth there too and help that guy out. Anyways.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it for today's show. Stay locked in. Stay tuned in. We'll have more draft stuff, all kinds of news and nuggets coming at you all week long here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.